there, friends and sane persons, and welcome to another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. My name is Kyle, and Wednesday Whimsy is a short show that I do every Wednesday evening where I talk about a board game, a top 10 list, or some other board game or other related to, or other kind of topic, whatever I happen to have on my mind at the time. And today we are talking about my mind. I've had something on my mind. There's been a couple of Kickstarter campaigns that I was really excited for and that have been slowly delivering. One of them arrived today, and I'll be talking about that one in a few weeks, I'm sure. But the one I want to talk about recently is a game I've been playing a lot of because as soon as it showed up, I was ready for it, and that is Unconscious Mind. You'll see it has kind of a foiled cover, which actually looks pretty interesting. It's this guy lying on a couch, and he is telling his psychiatrist about his dreams. That's basically what the game is about. And this is a game about kind of the early days of Freudian psychoanalysis. I understand that kind of, sort of the whole Sigmund Freud and lots of that stuff has been largely debunked and isn't really relied on anymore. But it was, back in the day, certainly something that was a big deal, and also it's influenced a lot of culture, regardless of whether it's good science or bad science, and who knows, right? I don't know anything about that stuff. It is definitely something people know about. Everybody's heard of Sigmund Freud, and so I was really excited when I heard about this game. This is the second entry from Fantasia Games. Their first game was the very excellent Endless Winter, which came out in, must have been 2021. I think that's right. A couple years ago, at any rate. And then this, of course, was their second, their second bit. Maybe it was 2022. Well, I could figure it out, I'm sure. But regardless, they then put this one on Kickstarter shortly after Endless Winter came out, and everyone was really excited about it. Largely because that cover art. Let me show it here. We have this piece of cover art here that was really very evocative, right? It was sort of marketed art first, actually, as a fusion between the art styles of Vincent Dutrait, who's a board game artist who does these kind of watercolor-looking people, like that man on the couch, and the more imaginative artwork of Andrew Bosley, who is famous for games like Everdell, and has sort of a very whimsical, dreamy kind of imaginative artwork. And so it was going to be a fusion of those two, and that's kind of all anybody knew about the game, but it made a lot of money on, was it Kickstarter or GameFound? Probably Kickstarter, and ended up, doing really well there. And then it sat, right? Then, it's a Kickstarter game, and Kickstarter games show up much later than you want them to. And so, yeah. Anyway, in this game, we're talking about what it's about, not my Kickstarter experience with it. In this game, you are one of some historical people that were sort of involved, or friends of Sigmund Freud, and you're going around the city of Vienna, and you're taking in clients and trying to analyze their dreams for them to help cure them, and ultimately score the most points. It's the theme here, we'll talk about that a little bit later, is not as strong as it could be, but it's definitely themed around this concept of providing psychoanalysis services, and that's what it's about. So how does the game work? Well, at its core, and actually it's good that I have this here, you have these ideas. This is really a worker placement game. So you've got your ideas, and you've got 3 to start with, and you'll get a few more you can unlock as the game goes by. And you are going to be placing, this is really one of those, I guess what I would call a place and recall game. We have a lovely view of the back of somebody's head here, which is unfortunate. But there's a board out here, an action board, a desk board, or however it's going to call. Well, it looks like we can't see any clear views of it. This is the best, I guess, the best we're going to get. And it's got a bunch of worker placement spots. And on your turn, you can take one of 3 actions. One of the choices is you can place 1 or 2 of your ideas, your workers, out on a spot. So you'd pick any empty spot, and you would point the sort of tails of these thought bubbles to the action you want to perform. It can't be an action that you've already performed this round. That would not be allowed. But but you can. But as long as you haven't already done that action, so you don't have anything pointing to it, you can perform that action. If you put out two of these bubbles, well, you're going to run through them more quickly, but you get to perform the action twice. And these actions deal with a variety of things. Some of them are going to be upgrading your own personal action board. That's this top row here. Some of them are going to be getting you resources. That's pretty much these two down here. Some will allow you to gain these cards, which give you a variety of bonuses and are used for another for publishing treatises. Where did that board go? Here it is. And then this is for where you're going to play those cards and publish the treatise. And then these two here are going to be moving either yourself or Sigmund Freud throughout the city of Vienna and activating various bonuses based upon where you are and the various symbols you have available to you. So that's kind of what you're going to do. That's one option. You'll put out one or two actions. There are these light bulbs, which are bright ideas that you can use to represent sort of a bonus action if you want. Yeah, you can use it in place of one of your own, but they have other purposes as well. The second thing you can do is you can recall all of your tokens, and you're going to get one coffee, which is a resource in the game, for each different spot that you occupy. So that's a way to get some resources, and then ultimately you'll be able to claim a bonus based upon where you are in Vienna and how many of certain symbols you have available to you. And the third option, and kind of the thematically main option, although, it almost at some points feels like a side action. The third thing you can do is to treat a patient. And what you're going to be doing with the patients, let's see if I can find one. Well, no. The patients are going to be these cards that are sitting in your office. And, we can pretend. So you have a board that you're going to have one or two of these patients available to you. And each patient is going to have a dream above them. And that dream is going to tell you the resources you need to spend and how many treatment points you can then get. And you're going to move this little tracker back. And when you get it all the way to the end, the patient is cured and you can score their bonuses. And also there's going to be a catharsis point. And if you get them to catharsis, you're going to remove this kind of a weird cover. That's you've treated their grief. And then you're going to get some sort of a bonus for that, but also their special ability is active from that point. So you can see, for example, there's this ability that this person has, and as soon as I've removed this kind of a translucent or transparent cover from her, well, then she's active, even if I don't complete her treatment all the way. And so you can treat both of the two patients you have available to you, and try and get them along the road to recovery, which will get you lots of points, symbols, and also access to special abilities. So you're going to do one of those three things on every turn. Eventually, you're going to get a resource called Reputation. Reputation is going to move Sigmund Freud's marker here up, and it's also going to move yours up. And then when his gets all the way to the end, that's going to trigger the end of the game, and you're going to score points for a variety of things. Lots of points are going to be during the game from completing the various tasks and options available to you, but there's some sort of endgame scoring based upon various things you may have accomplished, things you've collected, and endgame scoring goals that your patients they give you as well. So that's how it works. So what makes it special? Well, we're going to start with the art, right? The artwork is pretty special in this game, right? It's I find Vincent Dutrait's artwork to be kind of dull. It's just sort of these watercolor people, but they always look nice. But the sort of dreamy aspect of the artwork, the part that Andrew Bosley contributed to, here we can show some examples. This is sort of the Dutrait style of the artwork. You've got nice-looking people. They look like the kind of people you would meet in 1800s Vienna. And then you've got these crazy dreamy artwork that really, the artwork itself, it doesn't have any connection to what you're doing with it, but it's very interesting to look at. It's very dreamy and interesting and very clever artwork. And it's a nice way to sort of take those two art styles and weld them together. I think the game does that very successfully. And that's something that's very special about it. Secondly, as a Euro game, where really what you're doing is getting resources and turning them in for points, it does a nice job at trying to provide some sort of a thematic experience. The main way you get points is by dumping these resources into treating your patients. And that's interesting. And you're using their dreams to treat them. And it all kind of, it's like it could have been getting yellow cubes and turning them into brown cubes and turning brown cubes into orange cubes and orange cubes into points. And it's not that. It's, getting ideas, and then the ideas are turned into treatment, and the treatment is turned into points and special abilities. I think, in terms of things that the game tries to do, I think that comes across very nicely. Now, is the theme super strong? No, but it's, where are we placing ideas on a board? I guess that's sort of sharing your ideas with your. So, the theme's there if you're willing to work for it. And, the artwork helps as well. What else is special? I find the game itself to be quite interesting. As far as a place and recall game, it feels different than the others. This feels different from Manhattan Project, from Energy Empire, from Andromeda's Edge, from Dwellings of Eldervale. From all of those games, this one feels like it stands on its own. I find, the way that once you get into it, once you get past the rules, there's a lot to explore in terms of different strategies, different things you want to go for. I mean, you could probably play the game and just, take cheap patients and just treat them. And turn it into a patient mill. Or you can ignore the patients largely and focus on these treatises, right? You can collect the cards, and then the cards you can use to publish treatises. And there's a lot of things, you can just get symbols and walk around Vienna and have lots of fun at the coffee shop and get points that way. There's a lot to sort of explore in here. Once you get past the rules, and we're going to talk about them in a minute, but once you get past the rules, they're actually pretty easy. It's not that hard. On your turn, you're doing one of three things. What are the three things? They're this, this, and this. I think that's great. Also, there's a good solo mode. I appreciate the solo mode. It took me a bit to get there. And some of the things, whenever there's movement on a solo game, it tends to be a little hand wavy. But I find that in terms of making it an approachable solo without a lot of overhead, it's pretty good. The way that it works is pretty much all of the stuff this solo player can get, it turns into coffee. Coffee, when it gets to a certain threshold, it turns into these treatment boxes, which I don't know what a heart-shaped box is. It's what it's called, but that's what you use to treat. It looks like a chocolate box. I don't know. But it uses those then to treat its patients, and it pretty much participates in the various other things like a player would, except that most of its resources, again, turn into either points or coffee, and it doesn't deal with a lot of the, okay, I've got an orange idea and a purple idea and various things like that. So it's a good solo mode. So where's the but? Well, the big but, I've already hinted at it a few times, is the rules. They're not poorly written. This rule book is good. Everything's there. It's possible to learn the game from the rule book. But the game has so many terms, right? Like, for example, there's the red and the blue patients, and it calls one of them regular clients and one of them case study clients. But it's not apparent, it's not immediately obvious which is which. And so you're going to have to look that up. Like if it says take a case study client, okay, which one is that? It could have been, red clients and blue clients. And I understand they're trying to put theme in there, but it's not immediately obvious. Secondly, in these rules, they use, terms like ideas, and there's bright ideas and personal ideas. And again, what it means is the tokens you place out on the board, sort of your workers. And it would have been nice if there had been a paren about that. There's these latent dreams, and I forget even the other term for the other kind. There's two kinds of dreams. There's one that's drawn randomly and one that's chosen face up from a row of four. And it's not, again, I don't know latent dreams and manifest dreams, and I still don't know which is which. I know which one goes on the bottom and which one goes on the top, right? The one with the green back goes on the bottom and the one from the row of four goes on the top. But it's just not immediately obvious. I wish they hadn't used those terms, or if they had used them, that there were a glossary to sort of explain, okay, case study client is the red one, something like that. And that all those things make the game more difficult to learn than it needed to be. I remember I read through the rules and I literally had no idea how to play the game. I mean, it's just because it wasn't obvious. It said, you place ideas on the discussion table, and I'm like, okay, well, what is? So I had to set it up and play through about a half of a game, sort of two-handed, just to figure out what everything means. Now, I'm not talking about the symbols. I'm talking about just the terminology. Secondly, there's this board in the middle of the City of Vienna board, and that kind of feels bolted on. It feels like we need something else to give people to score. And I've never played a game. I've played it several times now, and I've never played it once where that was what somebody wanted to focus on. It's like, move around, okay, I get some bonuses. It's a good way to get some resources, I guess, but for the most part, I've found I tend to ignore it. There's just more interesting things to do. And I've never found, I feel like that piece really could have been an expansion rather than a core game mechanism. Also, I've said that the theme is, it tries hard, but it's not it's not particularly strong. Like, we've got these dream cards. I mentioned them. They look great. I had those pictures a moment ago. Here they are. These whimsical cards, but you really they don't do anything. The fact that we had some, what was it, rabbits on stilts that are walking through, or all these tools balanced on each other, that doesn't have anything to do with, okay, one top-level green idea and two mid-level red and purple, and that's going to give me 3 treatment points and 3 therapy points and 1, point. I mean, I wish it translated a little bit better. I wish there had been a slight push toward incorporating this art in a way that interacts with the gameplay. And, maybe that would have been a different game. We'd be playing Dixit instead of this game, but it feels like it's a little bit wasted. So, are there any other buts? It's a little long. It's a bit of a long game. Oh, and the final butt, and the biggest butt of all. I don't know how I could have forgotten this one. I don't think it is possible to set up a game for 4 people on a table. This game just requires so much table space. Okay, it looks like I'm wrong in this picture. But look at this. This is an enormous table. People's bellies are bumping the components. Nobody can, you won't be able to see what's over here or over here. This game just takes up so much space. I can't see myself ever playing it more than 3. And honestly, I don't think adding a 4th player is going to add anything more than an extra half hour to 40 minutes to the game time. It might actually make Freud move a little faster, but who knows? I just don't think logistically it's very likely that I'll ever want to play this at 4 or even at 3. Fortunately, it's great at 2 players because that's the size, that's the player count that can fit at normal tables. But this game just requires so much table space. So there's that. So what's my final rating? Initially, I rated this at an 8 after 1 play. And since then, I've played it several more times, with people and solo, and it's gone up to a 9 for me. This is just a fantastically fun game, and it's one that I just keep thinking about. I mean, I find myself during the day wanting to go and read up a little bit more on the history of Freudian psychoanalysis, or look at the forums and see if there's any questions for discussion. It's a game that won't leave, my mind. And it's one where if somebody said to me, hey, Kyle, let's play this game, it would be on the table. Well, it would take a long time to get there because there's a lot of stuff. But I would have it set up and ready to go pretty soon because it's one that I'm really enjoying. Was it worth the wait? I think so. I think it was. It just feels like it's not like any other game, even though all of the mechanisms are very similar to other games. So I think it's really done a good job at carving out its own niche. There is an expansion, that adds sort of horror and madness, and I've not tried that yet, mostly because this game is a lot to teach, and a lot to learn, and I just haven't had a chance to play again with somebody so that we've been able to go past kind of the base game. But I'd love to try that. I think it's really quite good. I think it's worth checking out. It's going to be expensive and hard to find for a little while, and I don't think you need the super deluxe version that has plastic minis. I think the sort of wooden meeples is going to be plenty for you. But I think it's worth checking out. It's something different and something fun and something enjoyable. And I've increased my own. I find myself enjoying it more each time I go back to it. 9 out of 10 for me. And there we have it. That's going to be the end of our discussion of Unconscious Mind. I kind of want to go upstairs and play it right now, except Freedom 5 is on my table, and I want to go play that one too. So maybe I'll talk about that one again soon. But definitely Unconscious Mind is a game that's worth your time, and it looks pretty good too. And with that, we're going to come to an end here. So I'm going to wish you safe travels, courage when you need it, and I'll hope to see you back next week for another episode of Wednesday Whimsy. Bye-bye.